Okay, I'm literally back for part two. In this section, we'll be talking about people and savior complexes, the replacement for God with another person, what it means if you're rejected by men, or if you feel that you're rejected by God, or if you have sorrow, the law of attraction, things like that. So, yeah, basically, I watched a lot of videos on, well, a video on being rejected by men, because I've also had a reminder of the standpoint of, I'm so sorry, sometimes people can take it so seriously, especially if you're not grounded in faith, because it's like a human instinct to be grounded in faith because we're made in God's image. So it's like, it's a human natural desire instinct to be grounded in faith. But if you are not, it's easy to idealize other people and put them in this like God seat where like you're looking for like a savior, which is normal, but not putting God where he needs to be, and having other people, you can find other people in the world to try and replace that spot, which is not like what is going to happen, because as human beings you can't do that anyway, even if they try and they have like a God complex and it might seem to suit them at the time to like have that, validation or attention. It's not something that they will be able to maintain or actually do at all. Even if you think that they are doing that, they're not. It's like a facade. So God never rejects you. Like he's always I don't know if that's the case, saying God never rejects you. God never, like it says in the Bible, like God won't forsake you, God doesn't reject you. But even like Jesus, like said, like while he was hanging on the cross being crucified, like, God, why have you forsaken me? And it's like what it is. Like I feel like, like at that time you would think, oh God, God's forsaken like Jesus because he's allowed him to be crucified. But then the fact is he died and then he was resurrected again, and then Jesus went and told all the people in his time of, or whoever he knew and whoever his disciples were, that he was risen from the dead and God had done all this stuff for him. So back again, the Bible never avoids. This has happened to me. My mental health deteriorated massively. I got to a point where I was very in a bad way. I've recovered, and then I've put a video out about my personal mental health journey so the world can see what God has achieved in my life. So there we go, and I'm sure we all experience this every single day. So there we are. Yeah, so I've already mentioned this in my last video, but yeah, God doesn't reject you, I don't think, but he might like put you through trials, is what I'm saying, like through like social media, or like allows you to fill your life with things that maybe like he wouldn't approve of. But the fact is, he's not like, I don't want to like generalize God here, because I honestly you can like have the words, because like whatever, but like he sees, like he made us and he like knows exactly what's going to happen. It's this word that we learned in RS when I did an A level on GCSE, omnipotent, yeah, which is like he's everywhere. And like, what's the word for all knowing? Oh, I can't remember. Well, anyway, this is what I mean. I feel like, yeah, there we go. And I think this is something, oh, I don't know. When you have, I mean, I'll just say it, like, I think it's worth me, as I'm obviously like, I'm only 23, right? So you get to know yourself throughout your 20s. But I feel like for me, I'm starting to realise how I need to remind myself to be humble through certain situations, because I think for me, and obviously everyone has their other things, like don't get me wrong, I'm still learning and I understand that, but the fact is I feel I'm sometimes have to remind myself that I am only human, because I have this ability to have this higher than myself, higher than others mentality, this sort of like egotistical kind of side to myself that can elevate myself like above others, and like being aware of like the ways that you are can bring a lot of peace. Yeah. I've literally confused myself massively. Yeah, but God will like put you through trials to like make you like see what you need to see, because sometimes like people are stubborn, do you know what I mean? Like and they even mention this in the Bible. They say like I probably have some hypocritical sides to myself. They say that God says that about the Pharisees, that they're hypocrites, like do as they say and not as they do. So I looked into this. In the Bible there are so many groups of people, but two of them are the Pharisees and the scribes. So I will only talk about the Pharisees here, because the Pharisees have got a bad rep for being hypocrites. So they're like, apparently like they're like respected rulers of, you know, implementing religious practice, and they're kind of like grouped with scribes because scribes are people that like report the truth, or like report the truth of God. They understand the truth of God and they like live by it. But both of them rejected Jesus. Both of these groups of people. I literally swear I don't know whether I'm going to be able to post this video, so I'm literally rambling so much, but this is like stuff I have on notes, so I'm reading off it. Yeah, so the Pharisees, they were basically they were hypocrites. So they would like go around saying something because they knew, because they're obviously, I suppose, human as well, so they knew like the teachings of God, and they go around saying this, that and the other, you know, I'm like, you know, without, like, I don't think they said they're without sin, but like, obviously I don't know what sin is. I'm like, don't be greedy, and yet they would then be greedy, you know what I mean? So they say do as they say but not as they do, because they are hypocrites. And the scribes, I'm not sure why, but they were grouped together for some reason. I think it was because they both rejected Jesus. So anyway, moving on. When I'm going to have to section this out again because I have started to ramble. When you have sorrow, you want someone to sympathise and validate you. So there's this quote, Proverbs 2:10. The heart knows its own bitterness, and no stranger shares its joy. So by that, I think it is saying that no one can feel the depth of your pain. They just can't. They can understand you talking about it, and people can empathise, don't get me wrong. And that is more of a simulation, or whatever it is, energetic, you know, simulation, so you can understand someone else's perspective, and that's how some people just operate. But no one can really truly understand the depth of your like sorrow without, they can't anyway, but they can be told to understand it, but no one can understand the depth of your problems. And even though when you're sad, like, you feel like you want someone to sympathise, they can't always, and it's important to realise that the only real person that knows your pain is God, which is why having a strong, healthy relationship with him is like so important, because people can't like fix your problems. Like, this is always going to be like being a recurring thing, where I've seen this happen from a very young age of people in my own life, you know, like I honestly and truthfully, I will say, when I was, you know, bullied in school and stuff, like there was a girl there, and it was almost like, because she was like a narcissist, like it was almost like, because like narcissists do project, they do abuse, like it was kind of like she was putting her narcissistic abusive tendencies upon me, like I was supposed to fix them or something. I honestly don't know what narcissist, I think that's kind of like, but I obviously like could tell exactly what she was doing, I just kind of ignored it. But the fact is, I was still like traumatized and like stuff by like their own narcissistic tendencies, which really was none of my concern, to be honest. That's within you too. Or like whatever, I don't want to know that, you know, I've got better things to worry about. So also another quote of Psalm 27:10, for my father and mother have forsaken me, but the Lord will take me in. I've mentioned a lot about childhood abuse and neglect, which I said comes on a spectrum of how prevalent it is and how much it happened, because you get some people obviously that go into care and their family have completely rejected them, and they have terrible parents from the adoption system, and they punch and they kick and they assault and, you know, and they verbally attack, and, you know, that's a high level of abuse and neglect. Yet some families, I will just mention this quickly, sometimes people can grow up in poverty, but they have like physical poverty, monetary poverty, but they have nice close families that are very empathetic and sympathetic towards each other to an extent. And then you get other families that can grow up in a very high-end household based around money, but the money hides neglect and abuse that goes on behind closed doors, and egos and money hide what is happening behind closed doors. So yeah, I think that's just going with the idea of, like, your parents aren't supposed to be God for you either. Like, as much as processing every single childhood aspect of your life is needed, you know, whether that was ill-intentioned or not or whatever. I have heard someone else on YouTube talk about when she went to therapy for her thoughts, she realised that it rooted back to childhood, which most things do, you know, how we programmed in childhood, like, it's beyond your control. And she came to therapy and realised that, like, she got accepted of the fact that her parents were just people and they didn't mean to abuse / neglect her, or whatever you want to call it. They did the best they could, and, you know, they loved her massively, but they just couldn't give her everything she needed and wanted, and that wasn't enough. And, like, that's okay, because God is there to heal us, and he's also put us through like that, because if every parent, like, this, like, it could just never humanly happen, could it? Like, it's only God that can really fill you up. They say, like, God is like the fountain of, like, life, and, like, you know, receiving, like, his, like, holy faith spiritual fountain, that only then you can be, like, filled up properly, and you can't turn to other people or objects or anything to do that for you. This might be a bit personal, but I feel like, along with other things, I feel like I have just done this as well, so there we go. Yeah, I've done that one. Knowing yourself and being fluid. God is the center. Yeah, so yeah, it's like God is our shepherd, knowing yourself and being fluid. Knowing God is the center. So, like, God's gonna put you things that benefit you in the future. Yeah, so universal truths, personal truths. Okay. So I'm going to do a part 3 because this is starting to, like, ramble on a bit, so yeah, I'm going to have to do a part 3, but yeah, I'll see you in the next video if you care to look.